Welcome to my informative speech on the growing problem with marijuana in Oklahoma. I'm Senior Agent Anthony Lee, and I'm with the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics, or known as OBN for short. I've been a member of the Oklahoma City Medical Marijuana Team since its inception in 2021. So why are we here? Let me begin by saying that I'm not here to convince you about whether marijuana is good or bad. I am here to work towards making medical marijuana successful in Oklahoma. But how can we do that? We can do that by accomplishing success through both information and education. But there's a problem. That problem is that Oklahoma is the main hub for marijuana all over the United States due to an abundance of marijuana product here in the state. Well, how did this happen? Well, it began with State Question 788, which was passed in 2018 by popular vote. Next, we had a Wild West mentality back in those days because the state was unprepared for the passage of 788. There was a lack of enforcement between 2018 and 2021. It was either due to ignorance to the law or just a blind disobedience, but there was no marijuana enforcement between 2018 and 2021. And during that time, organized crime came flooding into Oklahoma, mainly from New York and from China. And the organized crime, they took advantage of Oklahoma leniency. Okay, so in 2021, OBN looked at the problem and they said, we got to have something. So OBN created MET, Marijuana Enforcement Team. That was in response to organized crime. It was a marijuana-specific unit designed to both enforce civil and criminal activities. OBN, the MET team, mainly concerns itself with search warrants, inspections, licensing, and registration. So what statutes affect Oklahoma medical marijuana? Well, there's two of them. There's Title 63 and Title 475. Title 63 is criminal. That's your possession, manufacturing, that's your major drug trafficking stuff. 475 is where is something positioned, how is this done? It's all administrative in nature, but we'll start with Title 63. Title 63 means that the unlicensed possession of illegal marijuana is, well, illegal. All drug possessions is all the way around illegal. You don't have a license, it's illegal. It falls under Title 63. With that, if you do have a license, you have all of your licenses, you're good to go, but you decide, hey, I'm not making enough money, I'm going to start selling black market. Well, that criminal intent's illegal, and it means it voids your medical marijuana licenses. Title 475. Well, it's administrative only, like I said. Administrative only. It mainly deals with metric. And metric is the marijuana enforcement, tracking, reporting, compliance. And there's these tags, we'll talk about them in a second. It deals with those, how they're positioned on the plants, how they position on a package, whether or not you have an 8-foot fence around your property that has a 12 by 12 inch sign that has your name, your license numbers, and those sorts of things. And then 475 actually was created, 475 created OBN and OMMA. We'll talk about them in a second. Their existence, how they're able to register the different grows and stuff. So here's the metric tag. Metric tags are yellow, they're bright yellow. As you can see here, it has the name of the grow, it has the specific number for this specific plant, it has a barcode, I can scan it. You can see them here, and then they have packaged ones over there. And so I'm not going to say that criminals don't use these, because they do. Criminals do anything. But we mostly see these on legal grows, because each one of these tags has to be scanned and entered by somebody who understands the system's licensed to use it. You got to buy the software. I mean, it's a big hassle just to pretend that, you're being legal. So this was designed in an effort to reduce black market sales. Okay, so let's talk about the agencies. The agencies in Oklahoma. We'll start with mine, OBN. OBN is the Met teams and the licensing. OMMA, the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority, OMMA, they do mostly licensing. A lot of them sit behind computers and aren't even police. And then the State Fire Marshal's Office, they do fire codes and building requirements. And then the Department of Environmental Quality, or DEQ, they got involved because these illegal growers and some legal growers were dumping sewage into the ground. They were throwing chemical containers into ponds. They were killing fish, and the creeks got bad, and there's this green slime. It was horrible. And so DEQ got involved with the environmental quality. And then lastly, the local city and county governments, they do some law enforcement, like the sheriff's offices and stuff, but it's mostly taxation. It's about where the property is in the county, how much those land taxes cost, and they even have to get those cities to say it's okay to have a grow there, because they do smell bad. Okay, so how do we separate and not punish honest marijuana, the growers, dispensaries, and users from the not ones? Okay, so the best answer is that we'll do our best. We do that by communicating and acting in the best interest of legitimate marijuana community. But unfortunately, incidents do happen. We seek to mend the relationships with our community, even though there's still a stigma towards marijuana and decades of feelings of mistrust and resentment towards law enforcement for law enforcement's past relations with the marijuana community. It wasn't a good time, and they definitely were not fair. It's still a felony in places, but I feel like eventually it'll be everywhere. Okay, so enforcement duties. Well, OBN takes the bulk. They take the drug enforcement part, and they take the search warrants. We're the cops. The diversion, inspections, and license revocations are both OBN and OMMA. We have an administrative section that takes care of those, and OMMA is by statute administrative. I want to talk to you about diversion real quick. Diversion is where a doctor is paid to put his name on an amount of drugs and sell those for his own personal profit, not at the benefit of the patient. So I'm going to sell you some pills for $80. I'm going to keep all $80 and give you those pills because I'm a doctor and I can write that script. That's basically what diversion means. And then site code enforcement is the State Fire Marshal and DEQ, like I mentioned before. Okay, so we gained insight. So in 2021, we found that there were licensed grows all over the state. Unlicensed grows all over the state. And they would mix in with licensed ones. So one would be legal, one would be illegal, one would be legal, one would be illegal. And we literally had to go to each and every grow to figure this out. And what we found was there was a vast amount of ghost ownerships. And ghost ownerships are where someone is paid, generally organized crime would pay some average person like you guys, and they pay them like $50,000 for their name and signature. And then this guy who got paid ends up having 900 marijuana grows. I mean, it's crazy stuff. So Oklahoma several years ago made that a felony, and OBN would enforce that. And now you got the black market. Okay, so here we go. This is how bad the problem is for you guys to understand. And that is in 2021, we had 6,000 marijuana farms and 2,000 dispensaries. In 2022, we had 2,000 more. So we had 8,000 marijuana farms, but the same 2,000 dispensaries. So in 2022, we had 23 million pounds of marijuana. Of that 23 million, 779,000 of it were reported in metric as being legal sales. That means that approximately 22,221,000 pounds of marijuana made it to the black market from Oklahoma all by itself in 1 year. So, what are the next steps? The next steps from that black market stuff we talked about and the DEQ problems, those next steps are the future laws and enforcement techniques. We don't know what those are because they're in the future. But we do know that a reduction in the amount of marijuana grows is working. So we went from that 8,000 in 2022 to just 2,000 in 2024. And so there's 2,000 marijuana grows and 2,000 dispensaries. And we know, and it's having a reduction in the amount of black market sales that we have. So the DEA is talking about rescheduling from a Schedule 1 narcotic to a Schedule 3 narcotic. And the DEA tells us that if they do that, they're going to require that those grows and things are handled like laboratory settings, like major pharmaceutical companies. It's not going to be this mom and pop with the wires hanging out and dripping from the ceiling. It's got to be legitimate marijuana grows, facilities. So how do we make medical marijuana work for Oklahoma? I only know to tell you simply, we got to enforce the laws in the books. And then we've got to work with the community to eliminate and reduce illegal activities. I mean, that's going to be the only thing that's going to work. I mean, you guys can talk to me after this speech about it, but my opinion is the communication with the community and the laws, that's really the only options that we have. But there's complications to that, and we've got to protect individuals' rights. And I've got to, as a police officer, I have to enforce the law and protect their rights. So that means Miranda, that means all those things that we learn in the police academy, we have to do those. Search warrants, consent to searches, I can't just kick down doors, because all citizens' rights are protected regardless of how I or you personally feel about marijuana. You may personally like it, you may hate it, don't know, but it's irrelevant to me as being a police officer. So in conclusion, State Question 788 was created to legalize medical marijuana in Oklahoma. Passage without regulation created a criminal market, criminal issues. So that Title 63 and 475 were outlined, those legalities, but were not enforced. So from 2018 to 2021, they weren't enforced. But in 2021, MET teams were created to stem the flow of marijuana leaving Oklahoma, so that in the future, reducing legal marijuana grows will reduce black market flows. And no matter how you feel about it, marijuana is legal and here to stay. So let's work together to make it work. Thank you and have a good night.